It's a great pleasure to welcome to the first edition of What's Next for 2023, Craig Nowitz, who's the CEO of Syntec, as well as Ryan Martyn, who's the co-founder, Sales Marketing Director at Syntec. Gents, great to have you with us, and best wishes for 2023. I have a good gut feeling that it's going to be a great year for you guys based on what you've been doing, and it's a company that I've been watching with great interest over the last few years, and your growth has been absolutely fantastic because you are distributors of several energy brands. And with this insight, you look at what's happening with consumer trends with regards to energy. You look at load shedding, how that's impacting all of our lives, and you know, load shedding is something of a permanent feature now. I was reading on my broadband the other day that they say that we're going to make load shedding permanent for the next 2 years at least, according to government. But there's definitely a massive energy crisis, and if it wasn't for your products, people wouldn't have their lives made easier. But yet there are lots and lots of people who have huge energy issues, and the work from home scenario is one big thing, and just continuation of life. When you want to do stuff after hours and you don't have energy, you want that connectivity. So Craig and Ryan, welcome to both of you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Aki. Good to be here.
Thanks, Aki. Great to be here.
Cool, man. Ryan, talk to us about, you've been watching the marketing trends and all your sales and that sort of thing. And you look at how our lives have changed and consumer trends and the way that load shedding has impacted our lives. What are you seeing on your side?
So, Aki, we've been fortunate to have access to all the new technology that's coming on stream globally, and I think being in the game with power banks for several years now, we've seen consumers go from wanting just a small portable power solution to keep their cell phones going to these days needing to have real alternative power, not only when you're camping, but as you say, in load shedding. I think there's a growing demand for solutions that are going to be able to power many of the appliances and computers and devices that we work with, but not only do that for short periods of time, but for several hours these days. So some of the brands we found have really done that well are international brands like Romos and Xiaomi, and then some of our local brands that Syntec distributes and manufactures, including Winx and Gizzu.
Yeah, no, those are great brands, and I'm familiar with all of those brands. So well done. You guys are doing a great job in creating that awareness. And I remember Gizu, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I remember many years ago first seeing this device that was powering a Wi-Fi router and had enough energy to power a couple of batteries to charge your laptop, etc. And all that was happening simultaneously, and just people were raving at it. And now I was astonished at the size of this device and what it could actually do. And it was a very, very clever device, which is, I'm sure you still sell. But talk to me about Gizu. And I'm curious on the name as well. How did you guys come up with the name? But it's a really popular energy brand. What makes this brand particularly special to Syntec?
So Gizu is, funny enough, the brand that took us the longest to generate the name, and still I think it took us longer to come up with the name for the brand than it does to get new products to market. And as you say, it's a product we felt globally there were power solutions and products that were available on the market, but many of those brands didn't understand South Africa's real requirements. And I think we do have a unique application with load shedding, very distributed people, great sunlight in some instances, but really I think South Africa's needs are a little bit different to the rest of the world, and the portable power requirements are challenging. So we came up with a brand that was intended to solve the South African or African needs for power, in a way that would be cost effective, would last long, and really be able to be accessible to as many consumers as possible. And back at the beginning of our journey with Gizu, the most important things to power were your internet, which I think you referred to that little mini UPS, And keeping the Wi-Fi on keeps the kids happy, keeps people operating, and keeps a degree of a smile on your face during load shedding. And the second thing was keeping mobile devices charged. So we had a range of power banks, and over the years we've tried to understand every possible application that a consumer in South Africa might have relating to power, and build the right product that's going to be able to service those needs. And so the range has just grown as our power requirements and load shedding timetables have gotten more and more onerous.
Oh, that's amazing. What an interesting story. Now, there must be great benefits as well to having a brand that's a local brand where you can handle many of the elements in-house, right? So I think you ultimately have more control of a brand like this.
Okay, absolutely. Being our own brand, we put a lot of value into the quality and the service life of the product. So Gizu is our own brand. When we find products overseas, we'll go to a factory, we'll take that product to an independent test lab, and we'll get it retested under the latest test standards. So South Africa does require some approvals, but they're not always the latest standards. When we take Gizu, we take it to an independent lab and we do the latest test possible on the device. So currently our power stations and our load shedding products have a certification called IEC 62368. And what that does is there are new variables in the test reports that are required for batteries. So there's a new standard that requires that if the battery gets over a certain temperature, the charging stops on the unit. So that wasn't on the old test report. So we've actually gone to our manufacturers and we've got them to add in a temperature sensor on our battery. So if the battery reaches more than 45 degrees Celsius, the unit automatically stops the charging of the device. So these type of extra certifications, we get approved on all our devices before we import them. That's not standard out of all the factories out of China. And we obviously do a lot of improvements on the product. So on our mini power stations, on our mini UPSs, we're now on generation 4 of our product. So when we bought the first product in, we had one DC output that was selectable between 5, 9, and 12 volts. And we had a 10 100 PoE ports that was 15 volts or 24 volts. So after we introduced that into the market, you started finding a lot of people had two devices. So you had your ONU, which is your little fiber box that converts that to Ethernet, and you had your router. And often those devices were running on different voltages. So if you only had one output that you could adjust between 5, 9, and 12, you couldn't run two devices on separate voltages. So we went back to the factory and we said, guys, please modify for us, and rather instead of the PoE that's 10100, rather give us two DC outputs that are variable between 5, 9, and 12, so you can run two devices at different voltages. So that was the first improvements that we did with the factory, and that's called ODM. So we actually redesigned the unit with the factory. We redesigned the mold, and that becomes an exclusive product for us that they cannot sell to anybody else. So that was the first generation that we updated to have two different voltages. Then we realized that a lot of people wanted PoE on the units, but the standard on PoE of 1524 had already advanced to 48 volt PoE and gigabit PoE. So that was the second improvement that we made on our generation 2 mini UPSs, is that we added gigabit PoE, and that supported both 2 and 4 wire PoE, and that was the second improvement. Now, as we were alluding to earlier, we've gone from stage 1 and 2, and in the past couple of months, we've had a lot of stage 6 load shedding. And when we designed a lot of the devices, they were designed around a 2-hour load shed. 4 hour is a lot more complicated and creates a lot more problems. All of our products are lithium-ion solutions. And when we first launched the products, you had about 500 cycles out of a lithium-ion battery. That has since improved, and the latest lithium-ion batteries, we're now at about 1,000 cycles. And we'll soon be moving, and we have already on some of our mini UPSs, we moved over to LiFePO4, which then extends you to 2,000 to 3,000 cycles.
Wow.
And obviously, at stage 6 load shedding, where you're experiencing load shedding 3 times a day, you could be draining a lead acid battery very quickly. So obviously on the lead acid battery side, you have about 500 cycles, but you should not be draining that battery more than 50%. if you're draining a lead acid battery more than 50%, you're destroying the battery and you're going to drop the cycles from 500 cycles down to about 200 cycles. 200 cycles at load shedding at 3 times a day will give you about 70 days. Right? And that's why you see a lot of people complaining their UPSs or their old inverters with lead acid batteries are giving a lot of problems these days. On lithium ion, lithium ion, once you've used up your cycles, you're actually, when they say you have 500 cycles or 1,000 cycles, you actually land up with 80% of the battery capacity left. Not like a lead acid battery where you almost have nothing. So advances in batteries have been great, and I think that we saw the announcement from Eskom that permanent load shedding of stage 2 and 3, I think would be a lot better for South Africa than having intermittent stage 6 where we're hitting 4 hours, because that is really destroying a lot of the batteries and the solutions out there that were only designed for 2 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to add some predictability because, these batteries, when power does come back on, you need to recharge them to get to a certain point. But unfortunately, the time differences between all of this load shedding, sometimes batteries don't even get a chance to recharge in time. It's interesting you mentioned all those different technologies that are driving, these alternative energy sources. And I think that what I'm also hearing from you as well is that you guys are spending a lot of money and effort on research and development, because there's a lot of fly-by-nights. There's a lot of products out there that say they are something, but they actually aren't. And I've actually seen and heard of situations where batteries have damaged electronic equipment because they're not rated properly and people are trying to use them for the wrong things. And, the quality of the battery inside is not what it's supposed to be, right? And I think these things all make a big difference. And what I'm saying to consumers out there is be very aware. Buy brands that you know of, buy brands that other people use, and buy reliable brands. Don't buy brands that you've never heard of because you're looking for trouble. It was interesting when I was at CES in Las Vegas just a couple of weeks ago at the Consumer Electronics Show, and it was amazing for me to see how many energy solutions there were in a place like the US, where they've got a very solid power base there, and they don't have the same load shedding we have here, but yet there were lots of different manufacturers, coming up with new energy solutions. So I'm interested to know, with your kind of products that you have at Gizu, what are the different products you got? You touched on that power base for a modem and for a fiber, perfect for that. But you've expanded to many different products. So what products do you have, and who are they specifically targeted at?
Sure. So actually, we have quite a range of products at the moment, and we're introducing new products that we've had certified and tested that will be arriving over the next couple of months. Our current range of Gizu products, like you say, starts at the mini UPS, and from the mini UPS we have a range of about 5 different mini UPSs, ranging in different wattages that you can draw, and then also different battery capacities. Some you can charge with solar, some have the PoE on it, but the whole range gives a different offering for different type of lifestyle and how many devices you want to run. You can add CCTV cameras, you can add VoIP phones onto them. Obviously, the more battery capacity on it, the more devices that you can add onto it. The second product that we brought in is a portable power station. So the portable power stations are doing really well. We have a 300 watt and a 500 watt unit. These power stations are a portable power station that you charge up. When the power fails or you have load shedding, you take it out, you plug your devices in, you switch the device on, and you work for the period of load shedding. Once load shedding is finished, you charge the device again, and then you'd use it on the next load shedding. So yes, these are currently lithium-ion batteries, and they do have a charge time between 4 and 5 hours. So if you are in stage 6, there could be times where you don't have time to recharge the device, and then you'd go for a higher capacity unit so that you'd have more time out of it.
Before you carry on, I wanted to ask you very quickly, if you can, before you expand on the other products, just to explain to us how does one go about choosing the right mini UPS for their needs? Because you mentioned watts. I mean, most people have no clue. They think they can plug a kettle into it, which is the biggest mistake you can do. But obviously, things like routers and a fiber box, they draw minimal amount of power. How do you actually work out how many watts you need and what device you actually need?
Sure. So we try to make it simpler, and then we've redesigned the packaging and the product naming on the Gizu product to rename it around the watt hours of the device. So otherwise you get milliamps and you get voltages, and it's very difficult to work out how long the device is going to last for you. So we've re-rated all the products with a watt-hour rating. So for instance, our 100-watt mini UPS is 46 watt-hour units. That means that you could use 46 watts for 1 hour before the device ran out of battery. In all these devices, you have to take into account that you have an energy loss. During the conversion, you're going to lose some energy. So even if we say it's a 46 watt-hour unit, you should probably, to be safe, take off 20% as an energy efficiency ratio that you're going to lose out of the battery. So if we work there, roughly 10 units, so you'd have a usable capacity of 35 watt-hours. At 35 watt-hours, you could use 35 watts for 1 hour, or you could use 3.5 watts for 10 hours. So what you do is you take your device, so let's say your router, your AC adapter on your router would normally have a watt rating. So normally, let's say on the router, we would say it's a 10 watt router. Also, when you look at that value, that is the highest amount that the AC adapter can give to the unit. It doesn't mean that the unit is drawing 10 watts all the time. So you'll find that the unit could be drawing 3, 4, 5 watts and might peak at a 10 watt. But we take that 10 watt, and we have a 35 watt hour. At 10 watts, we get 3.5 hours out of the unit.
Okay, all right. So it's quite easy to work out. Just look at the configurations on the boxes. And Craig, you were touching on some of the exciting products you're going to be releasing throughout the year. What can we expect this year? This quarter, the next quarter. What exciting products are coming from Gizu?
So what we have just released and available on the market now is a little off-grid solar lighting solution. So it's a little battery box. It comes with a little 10-watt solar panel. It's about this size, and it comes with 3 LED lights. And that is designed to put the solar panel outside your house onto the roof. You can put 3 lights maybe into an outside patio area. You have a little battery, and you also have a USB port that you can charge devices. The unit cannot be charged off home AC. So it works totally off the solar panel. It recharges within 5 hours. So basically, every day, every night, it would recharge, and at night you could turn on your 3 lights, and you could also charge your mobile devices. So that's a new product that we've just launched. What we're also introducing, and we've introduced it now as the Gizzu 12-volt 7 amp hour battery, is a LiFePO4 replacement battery for the lead-acid batteries in the market. So I'm sure everybody has the experience. As soon as load shedding is returned and the neighbors' alarms are all going off, that's because their batteries have gone flat during load shedding, and when the power comes on, the alarm goes off. So that battery would have 500 cycles, and at stage 6, it would probably last you 4 or 5 months. The new lithium phosphate battery would probably last you 10 times that. So we are bringing in LiFePO4 batteries. We have the solar kit. What we also have, which is not new to the market, but our units are quite different, is emergency bulbs. So that's going to be your standard replacement screen bulb and bayonet bulb, as well as your downlight. And what happens is when you have load shedding, the light turns to an emergency mode. So normally it would operate at warm white color, so your normal warm white. As soon as there's load shedding, it switches over to battery, and it switches to a cool white, which saves more power on a cool white light. You can then also go to your light switch during load shedding, and you can switch it, and it will dim the light down to 50% or 25% to save extra power. So the lights are new, and those will be coming towards the end of the month. On the power station side, there are really some great advancements coming. So firstly, we're moving over from lithium to LiFePO4, which will change our cycles from about 1,000 to 3,000 cycles on a power station. It will also work like a UPS, so there's no need to charge it, keep it somewhere, unplug it, plug in your devices, and start going. You could leave your PC or your appliances plugged in permanently, And as soon as you have load shedding, it will automatically switch over to the battery. The great feature about these new Light PO4s is they're also super fast charge. So that power station will recharge within 2 hours. So within 2 hours, you charge to 100%, and you'd have the cycles to basically last you through stage 6 load shedding for 3 years.
That's pretty impressive. That's a fantastic lineup you guys have got, dealing with all sorts of eventualities resulting from load shedding. You know, you did touch on the kind of technologies you use in your gadgets to control the temperature, for example, that they don't overheat, etc., etc. How do you guys actually, a lot of your products come from China, how do you actually ensure that the products are best quality? Because there's so many different battery manufacturers, and at the end of the day, it's all about the battery, right?
You're absolutely right. So you did mention earlier that at the CES show you saw so many people manufacturing power stations or manufacturing these products. And like you say, I think every second supplier of ours out of China is offering us some type of backup solution at the moment, but they're not specialists in it. They're all trying to get into the market. So, as I said, we get all our products retested at an independent factory. We have an office in China where we go to factory audits. We go check out the factories. We do their quality control. We also send quality inspectors to the factory to go check the production line while our goods are being produced. So there are factories that will not use A-grade batteries. You will find cheaper products and the batteries will not last. So yes, anybody can just look on the internet and start importing products out of China, but unless you are reevaluating them, getting checked by an independent lab and verifying the factories, you could actually be buying from a trading house.
What you're saying to me just reassures me as a consumer so much on getting and buying a brand that has got all these checks and balances in place. Martyn?
So actually, there's one more side, and this is maybe just a little bit more fun, but they say I'm in charge of R&D at Syntec. So even though Craig has got all the technical knowledge and understanding, you can clearly see there's a lot of IP behind the products.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
they find products that are great from around the world and that they've designed, they give them to me for a week. And I'm not involved in the development of these products, but rather the research and destruction. So if something can last in my household for a week, typically it's safe for the South African consumer. And funny enough, one of the other products that we've got coming in, resulting from me having a whole lot of appliances blow up, is a voltage protector plug. And one of the big challenges we've noticed with many consumers over the last few months is the instability of Eskom's grid at the moment means that when the power comes back on, you either have a voltage spike or an under voltage supply. And that can be catastrophic for appliances. So not only massive voltage peaks damaging hi-fis and computers, but actually low voltage can damage fridges, freezers, air conditioners, and anything with a compressor in it. And so I think insurance companies are probably dealing with lots of claims with appliances getting damaged through load shedding. This is a little universal voltage protector plug that's been launched in the Gizu brand, and it protects those appliances from irregular voltage supply, limits it, regulates that supply, and then makes sure that they only powered back on when the voltage normalizes. And so this is becoming quite a popular product from us. But it's really exciting to see the development of the Gizzu range, largely driven by the consumer feedback and our followers saying, wouldn't it be nice if your products could also do this? So having the team in China, having the understanding and the access to those factories directly means we can respond very quickly to the feedback and develop those products accordingly.
That's very cool. So Ryan, you get to play with all the brand new technologies and toys when they arrive, eh? And you can destroy them as well. And also we must just say at this point is from a safety point of view, you know, we've spoken a lot about lithium-ion batteries, but please do not open these devices up lithium-ion batteries are very, very dangerous and they are highly flammable. So don't attempt to do these kind of things. I mean, I've seen some scary things when it comes to lithium-ion batteries, but if they come out of the enclosure, that's why you've got the safety features you have, because it's a great technology, but you've got to be very careful with it.
Okay, there are always risks with batteries, and where we have seen incidents is normally where somebody has dropped a device or is using a broken cable and effectively causing damage to the device. So yes, please, if your device has been dropped, if you see any damage on the device, rather don't use it and take it back to your service provider and your supplier and get them to check it out. But normally issues do happen when a unit has been dropped or it has been damaged and then somebody uses it.
So where does one find Gizzu products? I mean, I see them all over the place. I see them on Take-A-Lot. I've seen them at Builders Warehouse. Where else? They're all over the place. So how do South Africans get their hands on the Gizzu products and the new generation of products that you've spoken about?
So okay, we only trade through registered resellers. So all of the major retailers and online stores should be stocking Gizzu. Obviously, you've mentioned several of the retailers. Take-A-Lot carries our full range. And then we have a extensive range of, extensive list of independent retailers, support companies, and installers that also can have access to the product. So if you're not comfortable installing or putting a Gizzu product, or you don't know which Gizzu is best for you, those retailers are typically trained up, and then there is a host of computer and electrical wholesalers and support companies that will be able to advise on which is the best product. But by and large, the one thing that we do believe with the Gizzu range is they should be plug and play. And so we've tried to steer away from things that are too technical and need a lot of research. We've tried very hard to make sure the products can explain themselves, and the packaging is quite informative.
Fantastic. Well, listen, guys, congratulations on taking a brand to such great heights and having such a versatility in a range of products in the brand. And if there's one product range that's geared to deal with load shedding, it is most certainly Gizu, one of your many brands at Syntec, and wishing you guys every success going forward. And it's great to hear and very reassuring to hear how much time and effort you guys put into the safety features of these devices. Because as I said earlier, there's a lot of cowboys out in the market, and don't think that you're going to buy something cheaper, it's going to be good. Buy a product that's known and that has been tested over and over again. These technologies, they power your homes, they power your devices. You need to give them the right power they need, and it needs to come from a company that knows what it's doing. As the gents mentioned, if you add too much voltage or too little voltage, you can do some serious damage. And you look at what you're paying for these appliances, why take the risk? Craig Nowitz, the CEO at Syntec, and Ryan Martyn, co-founder and sales and marketing director at Syntec. Gents, thank you so much for joining and talking about your product range and the Gizzu range. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.